parcels. I said, no problem. Thank you.
I'm looking for Ray. I think Ray's up there.
It's the man with the weed whacker. Are we live now?
Mark, I might have to take it back.
I'm just getting the
Streaming in.
food from Ray.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? This ain't gonna be fun. I hope you help.
Are we gonna wait for more people, or are we gonna start it?
I'm waiting for a signal from Ray that he's
Frank
ready
or
to
Ray,
go.
will you let us know when you're ready up there?
Yeah. And we're gonna do the action items first and get them over with.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, everybody ready? You want to be seated? We'll get started. You all set, Ray?
You're all set.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of July 8, 2008. Tonight we have citizens input at 7 p.m. 7:05 will be the Board of Selectmen, the Ponce Reservoir Agreement acceptance of a dam. 7:20 p.m. Board of Selectmen, Conservation Commission, and Town Council, and some other councils about the dog park proposal. Then we have new business, action, old business. But tonight we're gonna do the action items first because we want to get them out of the way because we usually anticipate a prolonged meeting when these subjects come aboard. So first, Paul, pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All remain standing for 1 minute. Foxboro was faced with a tragedy a little past week where Jackie Thomas was killed. Stepfather Robbie, a lot of people in his office, and his wife, Michelle. And moment of silence for their family and her. I appreciate it. Thank you. Is there anybody here for citizens input tonight? If there is, raise your hand. It's kind of hard to see with the lights in our face up there, okay? I don't see anybody. We're going to go to action first. Andy, if you could.
We have 13 items on the list for the board to approve. First item is an application for a common victor's license submitted by CBS Scene Restaurant and Bar, located at Patriots Place. They submitted a complete application.
Everything's in order as usual, Andy?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we grant a common victuals license to CBS Scene Restaurant and Bar, 200 Patriot Place.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, Andy.
Second item is involves the Red Robin Restaurant, gourmet burgers and spirits at Patriots Place. They've submitted 2 applications for approval. One is for a common victuals license for the restaurant, which is complete.
Mr. Chairman, again, I move we grant a common victuals license to Red Robin, America's Gourmet Burgers and Spirits, Patriot Place, Manager Michael Morrow.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The second application is for a 7-day entertainment license. And they've checked off, it is for radio, television, cable TV, and widescreen TV. This application form has also been signed and is complete.
I motion to approve the 7-day entertainment license application from Red Robin.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, we have 2 legal invoices from town council for services rendered for the month of May and June. The May invoice is for $6,657.60. I recommend approval.
Is, this the one we sent back?
The adjustment is made on the June bill, Jim.
Yes,
I move that we approve the invoice of May and June for town council in the amount of $6,657.60.
Second. The, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second invoice for town council carries through June 26th, the end of June. It's got a $600 adjustment, so the total bill to pay is $2,352.
I motion that we approve the invoice from town council for $2,352 for the June 2008.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 4 is a bill invoice from Labor Council for the month of June for $962.50. I reviewed those charges and they're in order.
I motion that we approve the invoice for services rendered June 1st through June 30th. Town council for $962.50.
Second.
Labor council, I'm sorry.
thank you very much.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, invoice from Peter Epstein, who is special counsel for Cable and TV Advisory Committee. And this invoice is for the period June 2nd through June 26th in the amount of $4,400.
Move that we approve the invoice from special counsel for services rendered in the month of June '08 for $4,400.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 6, the board has received a request to approve a fundraiser proposed for August 2nd and 3rd from 9 to 5 p.m. at the Foxboro Plaza. Employees intend to hold this charity event as a fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. And there will be outdoor activities, and there will be music during the fundraiser. She's talked to the landlord and other businesses there, and has got approval from everybody. And I believe he spoke to Chief O'Leary, and he has reviewed this with her.
That would have been my only question, was I didn't see anything in there from the chief, so.
So moved.
Chairman, I move we authorize an event on August 2nd and 3rd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Foxfield Plaza, as laid out in a letter by Christina Alfar, Bellanova Sloan.
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 7 is a letter from Susan Christina Gustafson for the Susan G. Komen breast cancer fundraiser, July 12th, starting at the outlaw barbecue, running through certain sections of town.
Chairman, I move we approve the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Run for the use of Foxboro streets on July 12, 2008, rain day, Sunday, July 13, 2008, as laid out in the letter by Christina Gustafson.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 8, the letter from Michael and Rose Lincoln, who live at 12 Howard Avenue, asking permission for their Powder House neighborhood block party. It's their 12th annual party in the neighborhood for Sunday, August 24th, from 1 to 10 p.m.
This is an annual thing. They've been doing it for 12 years now, so I move that we approve the Powder House neighborhood to close Howard Avenue for the 12th annual Powder House neighborhood block party on Sunday, August 12th.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 9, letter from Kathy Fungione, Chairman of the Borough School Playground Committee. They plan to do a fundraiser on the Common in conjunction with the JC's concerts. They want the ability to sell the Foxboro game at the Common on all the concert nights.
Yep.
It says they checked it out with the JCs, right?
Yes, they have.
All right, I move we allow, what's the
The playground.
Borough School Playground Committee to sell Foxborough games at the concerts on the Common July 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st, as well as August 7th and 14th.
Second.
Yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 10, ask the board to accept a check in the amount of $1,000. It's a gift to the Foxborough Fire Department, the Fire Department's gift fund. It was submitted by Dunkin' Donuts.
Make a motion, we accept the $1,000 donation from 127 Main Street Dunkin' Donuts for the Foxborough Fire and Rescue, dated June 30th, 2008.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 11, there are 2 checks received by the library director as donations to the Boyden Library. One is from Lakeview Pavilion, in the amount of $3,850. And the second check is for $300 from the Foxborough Lions.
I motion that we accept the gifts to the Boyden Library from the Foxborough Lions for $300 and Lakeview Pavilion Charitable Foundation for $3,850.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 12 is a letter from Robert Cutler, Town Clerk, advising the board to appoint Mary Lou Cason as a member of the Board of Registrars. Under state statute, because there are 4 members of the registrar team, including the town clerk, there has to be 2 members from each political party, and to balance the board, Ann Ellen Brandy has to step down, and Mary Lou has to be appointed.
Make a motion, we accept Mary Lou Casons from 4 Independence Drive, be appointed to the Board of Registers as dated.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the last item is a referral from the planning board. It's a notice of a public hearing for Lakeview Pavilion who have applied for a special permit. That hearing will be on July 10th at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you, Andy.
And what about my addition to it?
One last item for action.
Has this all gone through past Chief O'Leary?
She's finalizing that with both chiefs.
Yeah, I'll just speak about this briefly. Thank you, Andy. It's a last-minute addition. A friend of mine, Steve Smith from Methuen, Mass., has been riding for an organization called Team Kate, which raises money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And this year, we're actually lucky he's coming through Foxboro. For the last, I want to say, probably 15 years or so, they've been riding their bicycles all over the East Coast. 1 year from Florida to Boston. This year they're going from Rye, New York, ending up in Middleton, Mass. But on that Saturday, July 19th, they're coming through Foxboro. So we put together a little committee here in Foxboro. The Marriott Courtyard is offered rooms for them that night, and I reached out to some people locally to put together an event. So we're putting it together now. If it's approved tonight, we'll go forward with Chief O'Leary and Chief McNamara and make sure that they have all the, they get all the necessary approvals for the ride to happen. Minimal disruption. There's only about a dozen bike riders, and they'll be ending up, somewhere in Foxboro with a small event.
Fantastic.
I motion that we accept the Team Cape bicycle ride to be held on, coming through Foxboro Saturday, July 19th. As long as it's approved by Chief McNamara and Chief O'Leary, I guess I have to add that, right? Because I haven't done it yet.
I'll second that.
Discussion, please. Mr. Feeney, your name's on this. Does this mean you're going to ride a bicycle?
No, I'll probably be the guy at the end of the ride that welcomes them all to Foxboro, I think, Jim.
Put you on a Segway.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
One abstaining, Pauline. Mr. Hickey, would you and your people like to come forward? And as we go on tonight, if anybody wants to talk, please come down to the microphone, state your name for the record. I really appreciate it. Nothing gets shouted out from left and right. This doesn't go over well up here.
Apologize for the papers on the stage. My briefcase broke, so I finally burst the magic folder after 6 years of working on this project. It gave up the ghost, so it is what it is. How are you doing?
Good, Bob. How are you?
Doing fine, doing fine. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come back again tonight to finalize our discussion regarding the Selectmen Subcommittee, the NRC, and our attempt to create a solution to the present problem before us of a possible dramatic drawdown of the Neponset Reservoir over the levels that it's currently drawn down, which are approximately 1.5 feet below historical levels. I really appreciate having the opportunity to spend more than my allotted amount of time at the last meeting to go through some of the issues. There were many people with me at the last meeting who were available as a resource, and I appreciate all the questions. I also made an offer to your board individually for folks to contact me should they have any suggestions regarding amendments or questions or clarifications regarding the Memorandum of Understanding. Several of you did take advantage of that, and I appreciated all the contact and the opportunity to discuss it further. Also, members of the NRRC and members of the Friends of the Neponset Reservoir, which are two independent yet related organizations, had extended offers for educational meetings and tours of the lake, and several of you did take advantage of that as well. And I know in speaking with them last night that they were appreciative of having the opportunity, and they welcomed you, and I hope you enjoyed having the opportunity to learn more about this beautiful resource in town. I'm not going to, I hope I'm not coming across as preachy. I don't intend it to be that way. What I'm intending to do is to try to be brief and to try to put some closure on this. I know you have another big item before you tonight, and I've been given 15 minutes for this. So rather than go through a quote-unquote spiel, as I did at the last meeting, perhaps what we could do tonight is have an open, honest question and answer session regarding some concerns that you may have, or some positives that you think are there, or maybe some suggestions that you perhaps weren't comfortable talking to me about individually, but now that we're in an open meeting, we have the opportunity to explain or expand upon. Additionally, I do have Bob Kimball with NRC here. I have the Vice President and other members of the NRRC, and I see in the audience many members of the Friends of the Ponce Reservoir, as well as some other concerned homeowners, and as well as people who frequent the businesses around the Ponce Reservoir. I'd like to give them an opportunity to answer questions much better than I could. As you know, being a member of the Board of Selectmen means you're supposed to know an awful lot about everything. I am constantly reminded how little I actually knew about just about everything. So my best defense to that is to bring everybody who knows more than I do, and then hopefully we get through to the truth and create some good solutions. So perhaps if I could just ask you, are there any specific questions that I can answer now before I get into some other issues that arose during the last 2 weeks that perhaps might help clarify our stand or our request?
Any questions? Start with Paul.
I'll just pose questions that people have been pushing at me over the last 2 weeks, so generalized concerns. We take over the dam. Do we have increased liability, potential liability on cadmium poisoning?
It's an excellent question. The answer that could probably be better addressed by Attorney Gellerman and Attorney Amora, who are up there as well. They've been working very hard, and Cindy came on late in the game, but she's done yeoman's duty as far as finalizing and putting this together. We did not present a finalized memorandum of understanding for you to sign tonight for the very good reason that we hope that the conversation tonight will add to and strengthen that memorandum. So the desire tonight is that at the conclusion of this discussion, you'll take a vote to support the memorandum of understanding and assign that task to Town's Council to finalize it and then present it to you at the next meeting for your signature. So just to clarify where I would like to go tonight. So the question is cadmium. The answer is no. The town of Foxboro already owns 1/3 of the property around the reservoir. The Ponce Reservoir Company and the town of Foxboro own approximately 67% of the land beneath the reservoir. The pollution that occurred happened as a result of legal discharge from the legacy Foxboro Company over the course of 25 years through permitting from the state and the EPA. That was a legal discharge. Now we end up with a problem. But the problem is not to the legacy owner. The problem is that of the polluter. So the property owners, past, present, future, do not own the liability. I wish that Attorney Gellerman would help me out after I get finished with this little piece. They do not own the liability. That said, there's an underlying liability, and that's the heavy metals, the cadmium that currently lies embedded in the sediment that's currently encapsulated beneath the water level. One reason why the Board of Selectmen, those of you who were with me on the board at the time, thought it was in the town's best interest to undertake this role as being a mediator and trying to identify a solution is because there is an unknown liability, and that is airborne contaminants. If the reservoir dam is decommissioned, and if 6 additional boards are pulled out, and if the body of water, the volume decreases by 50%, as our consultant, Ken Wagner, told us during an open meeting 4 months ago in his presentation on our phosphate mitigation plan, then that will expose anywhere from 6 to 18 feet of shoreline around the entire reservoir. There will be fields where currently there's lake. There will be mud swamps that will dry out in the summer heat, where currently there is encapsulated cadmium deposits in the sediment. There are health risks associated with cadmium exposure. Airborne cadmium is an unknown, unquantified, yet legitimate risk. There's a reason why batteries are no longer made in the United States. There's a reason why the reservoir is on the state Superfund site list with a 1A rating. There's a real and present pollutant there. The best course of action right now, while the State Department of Environmental Protection goes through their review with Invencis, is to keep it encapsulated. The best way to do that is either by exposing it to the air and then having sheeting, plastic laid down, and chain link fence put up to protect people from it and protect dogs from getting on it and tracking cadmium into the house and protecting children from getting into the mud and the dirt and breathing it in, or simply keeping it under the water. The solution our board, I hope, will embrace is that rather than risk contamination, rather than risk exposure, rather than risk outcomes, It's far better to work together and cooperatively with the businesses and the nonprofits in the community and ensure that we've got a viable recreation source that also, coincidentally, protects the health of the surrounding neighborhood.
You know, I had read through Attorney Gellerman's memo, and he does address it. He says, you know, the DEP could, you know, see if I state this correctly, have the town become more liable as a result of taking over the dam, but you felt that it was highly unlikely. So, you know, how do you feel about that now? You still feel highly unlikely that it would be more at risk?
I would say that that would still be actually the case, because right now it's our understanding that the town does own some of the land and could somehow be brought into negotiations anyway. So by taking on some more property wouldn't change things dramatically. And for the last 12 years, DEP has been content to work with the direct polluter, which is Mensis, and there's no indication that that would change. And for all the technical reasons that Bob has said, keeping them encapsulated is a good solution. So there's always some added risk, but not substantially. And I don't think it's going to change the regulatory climate involving the cleanup.
Okay. That's it for questions. I have comments later, but I can hold those for later.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, I do think I'm going to vote to accept the dam. I think actually, though, it seems to me like a game of chicken with the company that owns the dam. I really don't believe that they would actually let the Neponset Reservoir dry up. I think that would be folly on their part. But I understand, you know, that people who, you know, have been talking to me that it's really important to them, so I think it's, you know, important enough that we should do it. So, you know, I just find it unfortunate that, you know, we're at a game of chicken with the company, and I think it's, you know, really unfortunate that NRRC has to kick in money, but sometimes a good solution is better than just waiting for the perfect one. So, you know, that's essentially the way I'm thinking about it, and we'll let town meeting make a choice. So there you go. There's my comment.
Thank you. If I could just address that. This first came to our attention back in 2005. March 13th of 2005, Hollingworth and Bose, the NRC, and the other shareholder, Tyco, working as one, submitted a letter to the Conservation Commission requesting immediate relief to a present liability on the dam. The town was not involved at that point. They had requested that they be able to remove the 6 boards that were present in order to relieve back pressure. Through work of a number of people, myself included, in March of 2005, we were able to prevent that from happening, but understanding that the liability to the company was real. And as you know, with the 5 dams that we had inspected with the town, one owned by the water and sewer, 4 owned by the town, there was an issue in Taunton that then blew up into a much bigger issue. The entire Commonwealth had their dams evaluated. That said, I would like to, and this might be a misperception based upon some comments at the last meeting, based upon some comments that I understand were in the paper, although I didn't read them myself. I found the NRC and Hollingworth and Bose and the NRRC and Invencis and Tyco, which is now Covidian, all to be very honorable in this. We have to recall that 19 months ago when this first came before us, it was at the behest of a group of citizens that demanded the Board of Selectmen do something. And something was not defined. And so when I was given the opportunity by this board to serve in the role to mediate, it was with one mandate, that it be done without taxpayer dollars involved. And that mandate was held true. We are not going to be spending taxpayer dollars to repair the dam. So that said, I think a lot of credit actually, and I do understand what you're saying, but I think the flip side of that is a lot of credit goes to NRC and having faith in the town of Foxboro to be able to step up and cobble together an agreement that would work for them as a company that has real liabilities, real risk management, and real opportunities to get it in the shorts if this falls apart. So they waited 19 months for us to get our collective acts together. A lot of credit goes to them, and I really appreciated everybody's work on the private side as well as through the Town Conservation Commission and the Water and Sewer Commissioners, and listening to us as we went through this and tried to create a solution. So I do hear what you're saying. At the same time, I have a slightly different opinion.
I mean,
I appreciate everybody's work on this.
Yes, I do think that, there's been a lot of good work, absolutely. So I'm not saying that there isn't. And I'm really just pointing out, I think on these companies, which I don't think they're going to be going bankrupt, I think they have on their, books a liability, a contingent liability, and they're very happy to, be done with it and give away the dam to us, because I think that's the game in the state now. So it happens to work for us because, it's so important to us, period.
I would agree with you that it's a win-win situation, yes.
All set, Paul?
Yep.
James?
Bob, the issue Andy raised in his memo,
May I see that memo? I've still not gotten a copy of that.
well, the only relevant portion is, the other important issue to understand is that while H and V Co. will agree to repair their dam on North Street, they have not agreed to repair the crumbling culvert under North Street that carries the Crack Rock Pond water under North Street. Can you
I'll be happy to.
talk about that?
Do you have a copy of it, Jim?
It's right here, Bob.
Oh, thank you. I'll give it back. Thank you. Before I read this, I would like to say, though, that any attempt to bring Crack Rock Pond into this agreement is unfortunate from my personal point of view. The reason is that I went in a good faith effort to create a solution for the Neponset Reservoir and for the citizens of Foxboro, and in particular the abutters and immediate participants in the neighborhood. And I have here a list of all the abutters surrounding the reservoir. The town of Foxboro, of course, owns a third of the property, and they have a significant number of these properties, either through tax taking, through gifting, or through other means. So the town of Foxboro has a very serious role in identifying a solution, because it's our property as well that's at risk, and it's our, I don't want to be dramatic, but it's our property values that we receive taxes from the residents, but it's also our properties that we'll have to look after if we end up with a meadow or with exposed cadmium. So let's be clear, I was working on behalf of the Board of Selectmen with a jealous intent of ensuring that we minimize our risk. So while I appreciate the term of risk or unknown liabilities, I also would like to introduce the known liability. And the known liability is cadmium causes health problems, exposed cadmium is bad, encapsulated cadmium is good. So this memo refers first to town meeting approval. And I think that all along our board was hoping that we would have the opportunity to go through the town meeting process, and that's why we took the approach we did. The second issue here is that other dams are not properly maintained over the years. And while I'm certainly well familiar with that, I think what we're trying to do is create a new reality. And that is by taking ownership of a fully repaired dam, we won't be behind the eight ball to begin with, but we'll actually be all set, quote unquote, going forward. So with a fully repaired dam gifted to the town in pristine condition, what we have then is a maintenance program that is really no more or less than mowing twice a year to ensure that maple trees and other hardwoods don't be able to get their roots into the rocks and the caulking and everything else that goes into a dam. The issue here about Crack Rock Pond was never addressed to me, and I led the negotiations. So any attempt to bring Crack Rock Pond into this negotiation or into the settlement at the last minute, I really don't know how to answer that, other than it was never part of what I portrayed as being the agreement to the participants in our RC is not contributing money to repair Crack Rock Dam. Tyco is not contributing money to repair Crack Rock Dam. And the Inventus company is not contributing money to repair Crack Rock Dam. That known, I fully agree that the town manager and the highway department has a serious situation on North Street with that road and the culvert that lies underneath. My conversations with The NRC, the corporation that owns that culvert, their responsibility is what their responsibility is. And I think the town manager is in a very good position to move forward and do what he needs to do in order to ensure the interests of the town and protect the taxpayers and the users of that road to ensure that we get the best value from that company. But I would really like to keep that out of this equation. This is about the Neponset Reservoir, this is about the Neponset Reservoir Dam, and this is about a solution to protect the community from cadmium exposure.
Jim, if I could just interrupt, the reference to the Crack Rock Pond property has been deleted by council for committee, and so that's nothing you're going to be asked to vote upon. That's out of the agreement.
Bob, I'll give you a short answer on that. I know you weren't involved. This came up many months after we were meeting to discuss the NRC dam. Myself, Bob Kimball, Bob Swanson had a couple of meetings on the culvert going on North Street. I raised in my memo as an issue to try to hope that they, as a good corporate partner, would fix the culvert that services the other dam. I had the opportunity to speak to Warren McKay, the former water superintendent, and he's got a lot of history in all of the water issues in town, and he informs me that that's not town property. It never was. In fact, when that culvert was put in, the town had asked that they relocate the water pipe. They did not do that. They built a culvert around the water pipe. That is not a town culvert.
In all fairness, I know absolutely nothing about it.
I know.
This memo was written on June 3rd. I've been off the Board of Selectmen since the first week of May. As the person who was leading these negotiations for 19 months, it was never brought to my attention by either H&V, you mentioned Covidian, or by the town. So, again, I'm not assigning blame. I'm just asking that this be completely off the table because I don't know anything about Crack Rock Pond. It's a road I drive over. I see it on the right. I've camped on the Lane property. But as far as understanding what the issues are, who owns what property, I don't know it. So to bring it in at this late moment, while there may be some benefit to it, I don't see it. And quite honestly, it's outside of the purview of what I was tasked with doing. In fact, the name of the committee, the subcommittee, is the Neponset Reservoir Committee. So in order to talk about other things, I don't even know if I have the authority on behalf of your board to go out there and negotiate. So I fully understand why I was not brought into this. At the same time, to bring it up now, I'm not sure what I can say.
Bob, you've done a lot of work for the town. I'm not criticizing that. I use it as an opportunity to bring this up, and hopefully we can get it resolved. They're asking the town to accept something to help them out. They should help the town out by repairing the culvert that they own. They're two separate issues, I know that, but I'm trying to combine them to get something accomplished.
Well, I've known about it now for 5 minutes, so if you want, I can go back and try to do something, but I feel, you give me some direction. How do you want me to proceed?
Go call him, Bob, and come back in 5 minutes. Okay.
I do have all their numbers on my cell phone, so I could probably do that.
I was kidding, Bob.
I'm not kidding.
I don't think you're going to get a corporate answer tonight. James, you all set?
Bob, this vote that you're asking this board to take is to simply put it before town meeting in the fall.
That is correct. We would like to have the Board of Selectmen's approval to put it on the warrant. Town council would include it on whatever the warrant is in the special town meeting that's not yet scheduled in the fall. We would hope that it would be earlier than later. The reason for that would be it would benefit the construction process. There are permits that Hollingworth and Vose through the NRC needs to go through. Conservation Commission is involved, and as you know, government works the way it works, and the more time we have in order to effect repairs, then the better opportunity there will be for the dam to be repaired in time for the spring thaws and for the fill-up over the summer, so that it will have the maximum opportunity to increase the level of the lake, so that way in the fall, as part of our phosphate mitigation and lake cleanliness program, it can be purged out with the annual drawdown.
Andy, these entities that we propose to enter into this agreement with, are they the entities that are in control of this particular crumbling culvert?
Yes.
So the opportunity to get them to do that. Now, I mean, what we're trying to do is craft something that is...
When you say them, we're talking about the Neponset Reservoir Company.
Right.
We're not talking about the NRRC.
No.
In the NRRC, I would suggest by their bylaws, which I helped draft, and so did Attorney Gellerman, preclude it from using funds for issues that are not phosphate related. I would suggest that Crack Rock Pond's phosphate issues are not related to the NRC, and while I'm not to the Neponset Reservoir, and while I'm not an attorney, I would suspect that we would be precluded from spending funds on a non-reservoir issue. I'm just tossing that out there.
I think you misunderstand the question, Bob. I think what they're asking for you to do is to talk to them about Hollingsworth and Bowes, entertaining the thought of fixing the culvert that goes under North Street. Am I correct, James?
Correct.
It's got nothing to do with cadmium or anything else. I believe that's what Andy Gaylor and James Thrasher.
With all due respect, this is an ownership issue, and I fully respect the ability of Andy Gala and Bob Swanson to identify the owners and assign responsibility. Perhaps Attorney Gellerman could share with us if there's any issues of ownership that are unclear as to who's responsible for fixing what on North Street and the underlying dam.
I don't know myself who owns that property, but
Well, you've had 7 minutes to review it.
I gather what the board and Andy, or some of the board and Andy, what they'd like to do is to leverage the opportunity and tie it to asking the same party to recognize their public interest as part of a negotiation.
Actually, I appreciate that. You've actually clarified the point for me, and if I can respond, these are 2 separate battles. They may be related because they're sort of close to each other, but this board and the others who have participated with funding real dollars didn't get a bargain into it as far as buying another dam or getting another dam gifted. And I absolutely can't speak to the soundness of that dam, and I would have no way of making a recommendation whether we should accept that dam as a gift, nor am I thinking you would want to. But well, don't shrug your shoulders. You're tossing this out at me, so we're going to talk about it. These are the things, well, I don't know what you're asking, but what I am saying is that the Neponset Reservoir Dam is understood. The Neponset Reservoir Dam has engineering studies behind it, has a funding source, has clear and present ownership, an action plan, and an outcome, and a legitimate health and safety issue, as well as a town recreation opportunity that's been lost for the last 30 years that can be, once again, a reality, plus the real and present danger of immediate lowering of the dam should H&V choose, and I don't know what they're choosing to do. But that would expose shoreline for residences as well as the fish and game, recreational boaters, town property. This is the solution I've come up with. I appreciate the suggestions, and I understand the compelling reason to bring Crack Rock Pond Dam potentially into this, but I think I have a more compelling reason to keep it out of it.
They have a compelling reason to keep it out?
I have a compelling reason on behalf of the Board of Selectmen as to why this town should want to identify closure as well as an action plan going forward, taking it before town meeting and allowing the voters to choose the fate of the reservoir dam and our participation and ownership of it.
But Bob, doesn't it run the best chance of passing town meeting if we are able to gain this concession now?
You have 5 months to do that, I would imagine. Again, this is outside my purview. I don't know a thing about the Crack Rock Pond Dam. I don't know what the annual drawdown is. I don't know what the annual flow. I don't know what the structural condition of it is. I don't know what the issues are with the road. How do the stresses of traffic impact, or how does that liability go to the town, go to H&V? I just don't know. And you're asking me to start something after 19 months. I'm no longer on the Board of Selectmen. Yes, I'm on your committee, and I'll be happy to do what you wish. But tonight I'm asking you to sign an agreement. I've heard of 11th hour stuff, but this is something that's a reality. I'll be happy to continue working on that if you like. Nobody's brought me into it, even though apparently it's been an issue now for a month and a half. I'll be happy to participate and do whatever you want as a volunteer. But I don't think this is the venue.
Could you, in the next 2 weeks, approach them about amending this agreement somehow to accept that they're going to fix this particular problem, and we'll tack it on and we'll vote it in 2 weeks?
Perhaps, as I'm standing here thinking, if I could counter that, I don't believe I have standing with Crack Rock Pond because I have nothing to offer. I'm not on the Board of Selectmen. I'm not on a committee that has responsibility to crack Rock Pond. If I'm given your support, then yes, I could. But at the same time, if at the 11th hour, this agreement is set aside and a new agreement is trying to be forged, and I think I've lost the confidence of the board, and thus I would have lost the confidence of the shareholder or the stakeholders in this agreement. So it's a double-edged sword, and I fully understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand the position I'm being put in is that I've got a lock-solid deal that we're going before the Board of Selectmen with because we've been participating fully as a town for 19 months in an honest and open negotiation to create a solution. Whether the solution is agreeable or not, fair enough. But at this moment, to completely change the agreement in this way, that's tough. And if you're in my position, I'm confident that there would be a similar reaction. And the reaction is not one of negativity. It's just more of, if I don't have this agreement with everybody's feedback until now, then, I mean, where does that leave us? Where does that leave me? I don't know what to say. I really don't.
So you would be looking for some kind of authority from the board to go back and approach the entity about adding that into this agreement? What did I say?
Knock it off. You got. If you want to talk, you come down the mic and get in line. I made that statement earlier.
You know me. I love to talk. So I just have one more thing to say. And I think what I'm trying to say, and I'm not doing a very good job of saying it, is that by changing the parameters of the agreement in this way, I now have to go back to all the stakeholders. And I know that as a former member of the NRRC, as a member of that board of directors, I would have a very tough time getting them to acknowledge the ability, let alone the desire, to participate in any future activity. Hollingworth and Vose, as the owner who I've been working with, and again, I understand there's the perception, and it's not a misperception, but the perception that corporate America is looking to win, and a business is looking to win, and the town is looking to win. I'm looking to win on our behalf. The residents here are looking to win. Everybody wants to win. I understand that and appreciate that, but I don't see how in 2 weeks I can create a victory with Crack Rock Pond, considering that nobody brought me into the process until just now, and I'm going to go out with a mandate saying, you know, we're now going to tell you, Bob Hickey, to go ask a company to include a whole nother issue into your issue when I don't even know what the issue is. Fix a culvert. If there's clear ownership, then they should fix the culvert. If the town owns it, then the town should fix the culvert. I don't know who owns the culvert. I don't know the issues. So my suggestion, my counterproposal, and I understand there's other people who want to talk, but my counterproposal is allow us, the subcommittee, with your support, to put this on the town meeting warrant for the special town meeting. And then you have a powerful voice. You are the legislative body here. You do have, or the executive body here, you do have a significant role to play. If the town manager doesn't get the results he's looking for, and if the town manager is in a position where the company would potentially say, fantastic, we'll do it because we know it's the right thing to do, then I would suggest that he would tell your board, you know, we're all set, I move that we support this. Or if the company were to say, you know what, we got our way, you guys got your way, but that has nothing to do with Crack Rock Pond, we don't have anything to do with it, then I would suggest that you've got 4 months to figure that out, and the town manager could say to your board, and say to the advisory committee, and to anybody else that's willing to listen, either the newspaper will print anything you put in, you'll be happy to say, you know, we're not getting good cooperation. This is not a good deal because they're sticking it to us on the other end. That's a legitimate outcome that your board creates. I wish you wouldn't put me in that position because I don't think I'll be able to deliver.
Fair enough. Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Well,
Bob, in saying that, would you be willing, if this board voted tonight to, you know, accept the MOU and sign the MOU, would you be willing to act as our representative and work with the town manager and these entities in going and trying to resolve the Crack Rock Pond issue going forward?
Selectman Feeney, as a former fellow Brotherhood member of the foolish who do this job, of course, I will be happy to participate.
And I say that because I know you're a quick study and you know, could become an expert on the issue pretty.
Took them 6
pretty
years to
fast.
train me up on this. I wouldn't stand that quick.
And again, I hate to lose leverage, but, you know, you mentioned the word closure, and I think it's important with all the work that's gone into this agreement to reach some sort of closure. I think, you know, to protect the integrity of the abutters in the neighborhood up there, as well as the public health of the entire town, that it's important to do it and get it done, and not, and try and leverage these entities, and possibly put this at risk. So, you know, I'm more than willing tonight to accept the dam and to sign it. I think it's important we do it, and we do it fast. But I say that with the understanding that I'd like you to accept this under your purview, to go forward and try and reach an agreement on this culvert, and maybe deliver an even better product to town meeting.
I'm at your service.
No, sir, Paul. Linda? I'm going to let the board ask questions, then we'll bring it to the audience, okay?
It sounds to me like it's apples and oranges right now, and I believe that maybe town manager needs to reach out to them. I don't know if you already have or not, Andy. But I would say reach out to the folks and say, hey, you've got this culvert problem. You know, wonderful, all the work that everybody has done on getting this dam, and finally we'll be able to go down there and enjoy the body of water that we used to, and many in the audience probably have, because I did when I was a kid, water ski and the whole thing. So I commend everybody that has worked on so hard on this, and I thank you, and I think it's very important that this board supports it. And the only thing that I ask, not to extend your water situation, Bob, but that you folks educate the town as much as you've educated us, via pamphlets or whatever it needs to be, so that when folks come to town meeting, they know exactly what they're voting on and how important it is.
Yes.
That's my only.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure that our committee, as well as the Friends and the NRC and Hollingworth and Vose and Tyco, will do their role. I would just suggest that it's very appropriate that this be the way it go. I think that the role of the Board of Selectmen can't be understated when it comes to being the omnibus solution makers for the town. And to have representation, I certainly as a representative, if that's how you choose for me to go, I think it's very appropriate that we participate but not interfere with the work of town government, and I think that's extremely appropriate. I'll be happy to serve in that role to create a solution.
All set, Linda?
Yep.
Before we open up to the public, is there anybody here that wants to speak against this?
I like going positive first, Mark.
Well, you know, there's a lot of positive people here. I don't see one negative, so.
Valerie.
Excuse me?
Oh. No. Sorry.
Well, I think the consensus of the board is that it's pretty much in favor of putting this on the special town meeting as a warrant article. I myself will let the town floor decide, not the Board of Selectmen. So,
I move that we approve the memorandum of understanding as set out in the document. It's not this one?
It's not done,
no.
no.
More notes.
Dick, why don't you explain what it is we're doing? Because I thought we were approving this memorandum.
No, the memorandum continues to be a work in progress, and it's not completed.
If I can, Bob, what are you looking for?
The memorandum continues to be a work in progress. No, I'm just kidding. What I'm looking for is the board's acceptance of the memorandum of understanding, agreement to sign it once it's passed muster with town council, and then the assurance that it will be placed on a special town meeting warrant this fall for the town to review and approve. The gift of a fully repaired Neponset Reservoir Dam. The reason why it's not finalized is I was still receiving feedback from members of your board, and rather than rush through something, I'm not an attorney, but I am risk aversive. I didn't want to miss something and regret it later. So what I would like to do is have the approval. Of course, if something bizarre goes into it, and you certainly have the right to do what you need to do after that. But
Okay, we had this, we discussed this 2 weeks ago, and I raised some other issues. There's no reason in my raising them, but I believe that they'll come up again if they're off the floor at town meeting. And
Certainly.
You might want to have some way to argue those points.
I believe that I've already made compelling arguments, and there's always going to be multiple ways of looking at an issue, and all opinions are healthy. At the same time, that's why we go through the process.
Okay, then I move that this board vote to place an article on the next town meeting warrant seeking town meeting approval to accept a gift of the Neponset Reservoir Dam and real estate owned by NRC and to authorize the board to enter into an agreement to be presented to the board.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second?
Any more discussion?
Well, maybe we should start typing them all out, Pauline, huh?
Yes.
No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr.
And all
Chairman.
go home now happy.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask, in consultation with Bob Kimball, they're very eager to go forward with repairs. There's the realities that I don't pretend to understand. Members of the CONCOM and NRC as well as the state have to be involved with the permitting process. I would request, I'm not telling you, I would request that if there are other issues that would make a special town meeting worth doing earlier than later, then that would be for the benefit of the community. August, late August, early September would be very ideal.
Well, it's,
Just a suggestion.
Because to discuss timing of setting the tax rate, Mark, so I
I don't know how you
leave it
do
open-ended right now.
Kind of tough. No,
I'm not sure
tax
about-
rate.
We're not sure yet. We're going to discuss the time of setting the tax rate early fall, so.
Well, what construction time, construction season is, there we go. What is your time?
Bob Kimball, Operations Manager in the Neponset Reservoir Company. More than likely, if we get approval for an agreement that the town takes over the ownership of the dam, the construction season this year would be too short, so that we would do construction during the next construction season, which would probably be about a year from now. Yeah, so, but we need the approval from town meeting to move forward. The Neponset Reservoir Company is under the same mandate that the town of Foxboro is to have the dams repaired by November of 2009. So we have to meet that date. So we do have to repair the dam the next construction season.
There's a lot of other things that need to be put on town meeting in the fall. Possible contract negotiations come to a conclusion, a lot of other things. So, you know,
I'm not sure.
I don't know how we could do it before November. I really, it's usually late October, November. And I would ask Andy, if you could get back to them after talking to Randy when he gets back from vacation and see what's on the docket to come forward, you know, and then we can figure that out.
We appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to share that that's what our desire is. So we understand all the other business that goes on in town, and when the meeting occurs is when the meeting occurs. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Valerie,
being a little past 7:20.
wait. May I please recognize Valerie?
Val, do you still want to speak? I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I had my head down, I was reading.
That's all right.
All right, go ahead.
I'm short, so. There we go. Just two things in listening to the discussion tonight. Just because a company is a company that's involved in negotiation to bring in an issue that's totally aside from what you're trying to decide, it could, you know, you could end up having negotiations forever. So I think the best interest of the town to limit those negotiations to the issue at hand and not try and, just because it's a company that's involved in this negotiation, to bring in outside issues is not fair to the parties that have been negotiating. Secondly, I'd like to just address a question that Paul had earlier with regard to environmental law. That is one of my past practices. A basic tenet of environmental law is the party that creates the contamination is responsible for cleaning that contamination, and this being a state Superfund site, those parties that are responsible for creating that contamination are the parties that are responsible. That liability does not then transcend to a new property owner. It stays with the party that created that contamination. One way to protect yourself, and one thing that the town could do in writing this memorandum of understanding, is maybe put in a hold harmless paragraph where Bob talked about airborne and other types of contamination that aren't known. It's a basic practice of environmental law to have a hold harmless when there's a transfer of ownership. That's something that's done on a regular basis. So I just wanted to recommend that to the town.
Thank you, Ally. Anything else? Everybody all set? Gonna take a 5-minute recess and we'll be right back.
I mean, with that.
Gentlemen.
Is that the scene?
Hang on, we're just waiting to get it organized up here. There we go. Okay, Board of Selectmen Conservation Commission dog park proposal. Our typical attorney, this job, Sam Perkins, is not here. He's away on vacation, I believe, in Europe, but his, one of his partners is here.
Lenny Kester,
Lenny.
Kesten. Sam is in Tuscany.
And I guess I'll open it up to you. Start the discussion. You had a discussion with conservation?
Well, last year, Mr. Gulliman did.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Dick.
So do you want?
Sure, Dick, you should. I'm sorry. You're confused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm pleased to be able to advise the board and the people here tonight that I did meet last night with the Conservation Commission, and that by a unanimous vote and subject to certain conditions, the Commission agreed that if the town is able to identify a different suitable location for a dog park, that the Commission would agree to close the Cohasset River Dog Park. And before I go into the conditions, I do want to say, and this is somewhat editorial, but I think the Commission took a very principled and difficult position last night. This has been a very emotional matter for a lot of people, and it's been very, very difficult. We all appreciate that government ought not to put its citizens in a position to have to sue its town. We all appreciate that it's a shame when boards are at odds with one another, and I wanted to publicly commend the Conservation Commission for putting the public interest ahead of some understandable personal difficult feelings, and very much appreciate what they did last night. The salient conditions to their agreement that they would close the park if another site is identified is that we do so within by July 22nd, and by identify I mean only that. And let me also point out that Andy Galler and Mark Resnick are already working on this. But if we are able to identify, that is, to show a parcel that is suitable for a dog park, then we would then further put off the trial date, which is now scheduled for August, and proceed with whatever process needs to be followed in order to create a dog park on that land. Now, that process will vary depending upon if and where the property is located and under whose jurisdiction it is. Now, there are no limitations on Mark's search. That is, he can, we've told him to look at any town property without regard to under whose control that may presently be, i.e. school department, water department, rec department. There are processes that a town government can go through in order to transfer land out of one board and into another for use as a dog park. That process would generally include a town meeting vote. The commission recognized that. And that may happen. Now, it may also happen that at the end of 2 weeks, sadly, there are no other locations. If that does occur where we've lost nothing, you're right back to where you are now with a a case scheduled for trial in August. But as the commission recognized last night, there's no harm in giving the town the opportunity in 2 weeks' time to see if we can't find a place that's suitable and put an end to what's a very sad chapter in Foxboro. We all ought to take whatever efforts we can to stop disputes between boards, disputes between citizens and boards, and I would very much urge the selectmen to concur with the commission's vote last night. Let's give ourselves 2 weeks. Let's see if we can find another parcel of land. Much will be gained if that's accomplished. Nothing will be lost if you don't do that. So I'm happy to report that. Again, I really want to commend the commission. It was not easy for them to do this, but they did it, and much to their credit.
And Dick, you deserve a lot of credit yourself, because I asked you 2 weeks ago to do the best you could to bring these boards together in the town. You've done a very good job in the last 2 weeks, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I'll open it up to the board. Any questions for Dick, Paul?
No questions.
James?
No.
Linda?
That must have been a tough decision. I applaud you for doing that, to get these boards together. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that this board hold off on making any decisions to the 22nd, which is our next scheduled meeting, I believe. Is it on, Andy?
Yes, it is.
Mark, but have you already made the motion, or can I make some comments? Not questions, comments.
No, go ahead. I'm finished, but go ahead. No, I mean, I'll make it later. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, and I sincerely, and I'm going to read this. I sincerely wish we were not at this point, but we are. Let me say that the Board of Selectmen, along with the town manager, in my opinion, have the legal authority to close the dog park pursuant to the Town Manager Act. Is there a good argument that the dog park should remain open? Sure, plenty of people enjoy it and went to great effort to create it. Why should we close the dog park? Because it's on conservation land and it's right next to abutters. We can also end all the litigation at no cost to the town. Plus, I'm optimistic we can move the park to a non-controversial spot. People ask, why not let the trial go ahead, let a judge decide whether or not the dog park is legal? There's a few points on that. A judge in Boston simply does not know what's best for Foxboro. The abutters will simply appeal the judge's decision, and this will continue to drag on. And most importantly, at this point, I think it's the right decision to close it down. I know of very few people who would want a dog park right next to their home. Well, some people think it's wrong and or foolish to let the abutters win, air quotes. I view it differently. I say settle this and let's stick with the proposition that if you own a home next to conservation land, you're safe from a dog park being put in next to you. We could take this as a victory and move on. I won't make a motion at this point, but I just wanted to make those comments. And well, period.
How'd you come up with the 2-week time frame, Dick? I mean, it seems pretty short since it's been 2 years that we've been discussing this.
Yeah, 2 weeks was in order to preserve, the commission wanted to preserve the trial date, and they wanted, and I should have said this earlier, and not exactly responsive, but it should be clear that the commission's position on this, it comes not at all from a belief that they don't have there's no diminution in their authority here. They simply want to try to resolve it and resolve it. So the 2 weeks was set out because we thought July 22nd would enable council to preserve the trial date, and to also, given the fact that we've already begun looking at properties, provide enough time for Mark and Andy to identify if they're going to be able to do so, this alternative site. So
How will they know in 2 weeks
whether or not the site is going to be satisfactory, given that we have other issues that we have never resolved as a town, issues of liability, user fees, dog control restriction, bylaw. What's the expected course of events over the course of the next 14 days on those issues?
What I think the most you could hope for in the next 2 weeks is to identify a parcel of land that appears to be suitable. I think we all know that at that time there is other work to be done. My sense of the commission last night was that if we do come up with a site that appears to be suitable, we'll then go forward with all of the issues that you're going to have to go forward with in order to then create the park, transfer the land to the authority of this board to run that park. There will be, it's not, the 2 weeks isn't the end of the process, it's sort of the beginning of it. And I think we all recognize that.
So what you've been able to do is to essentially craft a 2-week window in which the town can identify one or multiple parcels upon which a dog park might be appropriate, and the commission is committed at that time to agreeing to continue the trial to give us an opportunity to explore the other issues that attend to the dog park.
Yes.
Okay. It makes sense to me. If they've asked for 2 weeks and we have 2 weeks, we can take it up again in 2 weeks and see what parcels have been identified. That's one of the things I've been asking for all along. Where in Foxboro is this particular use appropriate?
Just for clarification, Dick, and to follow up on Jim's question. So I guess the commission then agreed to, we'll go out over this 2-week window and look. If there's a suitable location found, they've agreed to ask for continuance of the trial?
Yes.
Okay.
And Paul, so that it's clear, it's not the commission that's looking at it, it's Mark Resnick and Andy Gallo.
Paul, I think you used the word suitable, and I don't think at this time we will know whether it's suitable. It's simply identifying a parcel that has potential. Then we can sort through the other issues that attend to the dog park, and we've learned over the course of the last few months what those issues are.
Right.
So we simply identify the parcels. So let me see if I can draft something in light of what Dick has said.
Paul, you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Linda, anything you want to ask?
No.
Can I ask why we would even need a motion at this point? I suppose, you know, that work can go along in the next 2 weeks, and I suppose we can, you know, rubber stamp that. But 2 weeks from now, there's no dog park alternative that's located. I'm really of the opinion that at that point we should, again, either A, close down the park, or B, look to extend that chance to look at it until September and ask the judge to hold off the trial, because I think it's unreasonable to go through a trial when we're still looking for a dog park.
Well,
Right.
I just get everybody together to kind of have a nice conversation and get this going forward. I don't think I want to throw any gas in the fire right now. I think we're all in agreement here that we're going to just show the support to Concom, that we're going to move forward with you if you can, and we're going to work hard to identify a spot, one which you said you'd work hard to do. So I would expect that you would also be helping out in this situation as long as it was with the rest of the other boards to identify it. That's why I expect from the next 2 weeks is a grand effort from everybody, and just stop the BS for a little while. And then if we have to go to that point, the 22nd, we'll talk about it then, not tonight. Let's go out here with a little happy note instead of the 2 week maybes, maybe nots.
I think I'm a little bit taken aback because, again, that work can go on, and I support it, and I think that would be great if a location is identified in 2 weeks. I'm simply making the point that I don't think it requires a motion from us, and I'm not being hyper-technical. I'm just making the point that really part of my problem all along is because I've been bullish the last month or so to, hey, let's close it down in September and be done with it, because I think if we don't have the stick of it being closed at a date certain, that every single location that is identified, not good enough. That's human nature. So, that's kind of why I'm bringing this up. I like the idea of putting a date certain. I don't think that's going to happen tonight, but I personally think that's the best way to go through it, and I'll support a motion if someone makes it that says, let's try hard in the next 2 weeks, great. But I think 2 weeks from today, if we're at the point of, no location's good enough, my motion, if I'm the only one who votes for it, fine, will be, let's close it down, or, otherwise put off the trial.
If in the course of this investigation, Paul, we look town-wide and can find no other piece of land that might be suitable, possibly suitable as a dog park, then I think we have a serious problem and we may have to take action. In the meantime, let's try to work together and identify these locations. What I had in mind for a motion so that we would have something that Pauline could put into the record as to what this board's understanding of what council's communications with the Conservation Commission were, something to the effect that over the next 2 weeks, the town manager and the town planner will attempt to identify a possible location for a dog park, and if such a parcel or parcels are identified, then we will file a unified motion to continue the trial and to determine whether the identified locations are suitable while we work through the issues of liability, user fees, rules, regulations, and the dog control restriction bylaw.
Second.
I'm sorry, can Jim read it again?
Sure.
I move that over the next 2 weeks, the town manager and the town planner will attempt to identify a possible location for a dog park, and if such a parcel or parcels are identified, then we will file a unified motion to continue the trial and to determine whether the identified locations are suitable while we work through the issues of liability, user fees, rules, regulations, and the application of the dog control restriction bylaw.
I'll second it again. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Yes, 5-0, Pauline. Mr. Valenzola, you have anything you want to say?
Other people are standing there waiting to go.
Excuse me?
These people have been waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie, I didn't see that. Let me recognize him first because I just asked him to, please. Thank you. Mr. Valenzola, from the microphone, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ed Valenzola. I'm an attorney at 121 North Main Street in Mansfield, and as you know, I represent the plaintiffs and the abutters to this dog park. If I could back up for a second as to why we're here tonight, I'd like to just bring us forward a little bit. Back on June 12th, I received a phone call from Sam Perkins, the attorney for the town, late in the evening of June 12th after he had met with the Selectmen. And he basically reached out to my clients, to the plaintiffs, and said, we have a proposal we want to put out there. Essentially, it boiled down to we would like to use good faith efforts to relocate the dog park and file a joint motion to continue the trial into the fall. I asked him after that proposal was made, is this something the Conservation Commission is on board with? And his response was, well, let's see how your clients respond to that, and then we'll go to the Conservation and we'll speak with them. Within a day or so, I had spoken with my clients, and they responded in a very positive manner. We're very encouraged by the offer. When I spoke with Attorney Perkins, he said, we talked about putting a little more details into that offer. What does it mean to use good faith efforts to find another spot? Who makes that decision? I had proposed, and I think it's probably been circulated by now, an email setting forth about 8 or 9 proposed terms, and had offered any feedback on those terms, such things as establishing a committee that would be directed by the Conservation Commission, maybe a couple members from Conservation, a few members from the Selectmen. I even suggested a few citizens, one of the dog park proponents, a citizen on behalf of the abutters, sort of a committee that would work cooperatively and in good faith to see what is out there for other locations. I respect and we're certainly encouraged by what Mr. Gellerman said this evening, that Conservation last night wants to look and see what's out there for the next couple of weeks, but it seems to exclude participation by the abutters and by others that might want to be involved, and so it...
And I got to cut you off. If any of the abutters or anyone here has any suggestion about any possible location, I think that Mr. Geller would be happy to hear from them, that they are welcome to participate in any way.
Sure.
Is that true, Andy?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's great.
And without cutting you off, but you raised a number of issues in your email, and they're in line with what I thought was in the motion, that we have a number of issues that we have to address. Maybe an appointment of a committee. The most important thing right now is seeing if we can find another spot. This is the first thing we've agreed on in a long time.
No, I appreciate that. If I could just have
I almost made a motion to adjourn already.
Respectfully, if I could just have a minute to set forth our position on this. I think the important factor that is missing is that in our discussion, in the initial proposal, it was suggested that the trial date would be continued to the fall. There's really no harm. I mean, neither side sacrifices anything, neither side's conceding anything, and it just takes, we have depositions scheduled, there's other discovery going on, and, you know, in the real world, trying a case on August 6th means that we can't stop in the next 2 weeks. Neither side can stop in the next 2 weeks and say, let's see if another location's found. We're proceeding in trial preparation mode. So we're talking about being fair to the citizens and the abutters tonight, who should never be put in a position of suing its own town. Being fair to them means a short continuance of the trial date without either side conceding anything or showing any concession whatsoever. So that's what's missing here. We came, after that June 12th conversation, we attended a Conservation Commission hearing, and we waited a few hours. They eventually went into executive session. We were hoping for a dialogue. That didn't happen. Again, we're very encouraged by the fact that there was discussion last night with the Conservation Commission, and they have come back and said that they will use their efforts to find another location that's suitable. But look, let's be realistic here. In 2 weeks, we have a trial 2 weeks after that, and there's really no other participation here. I don't understand what the harm is to the town or to the abutters for a short continuance of the case to September, so that we're not in trial mode, neither side's in trial mode or discovery mode. My clients, who are private citizens of your town, are spending money, spending their personal funds to litigate this case, only because they've wanted to be heard from day one. When I get involved in this case, you look back at the 2 years' worth of minutes, and you know they participated. They were told meet with Conservation. They were told meet with Selectmen, Recreation Department. Everyone was working hard. I think everyone had good intent and were acting in good faith. But the bottom line is this has been going on for 2 years. So when they initiated the litigation, it wasn't because this was their first choice. It wasn't because they wanted to sue their own town. That's certainly not comfortable. It's not something they want to see resolved by the courts. Now, one of the things I've heard around town, a couple of things, is that we're going to have a final resolution on August 6th, so let's not move that date because we're going to have closure. That's just not so. One side or the other may likely appeal this case, and you still have other issues out there, and I say this not as a threat or to pile it on or anything else, but there's still a civil rights claim pending that has not been filed with the courts. I've heard representations made around town that the land court judge threw out the civil rights claim of my clients. That's not so. That has never been filed. It would likely be filed in federal court with a jury trial. I can go on and on. There are other pending claims. So this is not going to be cleaned up nice and tidy August 6th, regardless of how the judge rules. And if the judge rules as he has currently ruled, you're going to have a dog park with some pretty strict restrictions on it and conditions. And you're still going to have abutters that will be bothered by the noise. I don't have to go through the details, what Mr. Hickey said, what others have said about that dog park being a nuisance. Mr. Sullivan was kind enough to meet with one of my clients in March, and he got out there and said, wow, I can see what you're talking about, and we appreciated his candor. Others, Mr. Bodie went out there with Mr. Thrasher, I believe a few weeks ago, and walked it, and I think they acknowledged that, boy, this is the loudest we've heard the dogs barking. So I don't think I have to beat it to death that this is loud, this is bothersome. This interferes with the quiet enjoyment of my clients' homes.
Ed, if I might, please. This is the closest conservation and the Board of Selectmen have come to an agreement, as you well know. Let's look at it as a positive direction tonight, and let's not look back on all this negativity, because that's what I'm looking forward to, is going forward here.
That's fair, Mark, but the problem is that what's been proposed is something that conservation can do with or without our participation. I mean, the case is marked for August 6th for trial, so they can certainly, if they haven't already done so, they can certainly go out and try to find another location. They don't need your participation for that. They don't need a motion, as Paul said, and they don't need our participation. They can try to find another location. I think if we go to the land court judge 2 weeks before the trial and say we think we've identified a location, we want to continue the trial date, may be difficult for us to do that at that point, depending on what it means that we've identified another location and what it means as far as the status of the litigation. So we may not be able to continue the case that easily at that point. I guess what I would ask you is, the motion and what you've talked about is fine, but why not simply add to it, you continue the case for a couple months on a joint motion as originally proposed. No one is harmed by that, and you back off of the litigation. No one's conceding weakness. My clients save a little time and money from trial preparation, and if they find something, great. If they don't, we all have a day in court, and this thing goes on, and we have other proceedings that flow from it, because, quite frankly, I think any one of you sitting in my client's position would be doing the same exact thing they're doing, with all due respect.
Ed, if I may, there are 5 lawyers at this table, at least. There's at least 1 lawyer on the Conservation Commission, and there are probably 10 more in the audience. And lawyers understand the pressure lawyers face when they have a trial date. So we don't continue with this matter at this board for only 2 weeks lightly. I have advocated that the case be put over to the end of September. However, democracy doesn't work perfectly. We, at least at this point, have something we can work with. I more than anyone, appreciate 20-hour days leading up to a trial. It's not fun, but sometimes these things happen. We are trying to craft a political solution to a problem, and this is the best we can do for the time being, because we cannot, at this point, get the Conservation Commission to sign on in a unified manner. I'm not opining on what our authority is. I'm looking at an opportunity to put something over for a couple of weeks, and let's see what other pieces of property we have. If you have to prepare for trial, you have to do
Jim,
what you have to do.
That's fine. No, I've tried plenty of cases. We're not worried about trying a case. I'm more concerned about my client's involvement. We're talking about individuals that have jobs, that have kids in school. They're spending money for this litigation process. They filed the suit again early on because they were hoping it would bring a resolution. There wasn't one for 2 years, that this would bring people together and that we could discuss this and resolve it. So the trial, I will try the case August 6th. We'll be ready for trial. It's unfortunate you're putting my clients in that position. And the litigation won't end at that point. And again, that's not a threat. It's just that you're making my clients go through these steps. Two last quick points. I guess I would ask you respectfully to ask Conservation, what is the problem with putting it off till September or October, and let's see how this plays out. Then you'll have your day in court, number one. And number two, let me just give you a couple of quick facts, because I think this is very telling. Today, I received from the counsel for the town the logbook, the sign-in book that people have to sign when they come to the dog park.
I really don't want to get into that.
Very quickly.
No.
Well,
we're
Mark,
going to leave here tonight on a positive note. I want you to stop. And we're going to come back in 2 weeks.
please, respectfully, I think I would like to have
I don't want to get into this, Ed.
But
I don't.
This is a public forum. I have the right to set forth my client's position respectfully. Simply that 80% of the people come from out of town. 80% of the people in April and May that visited that dog park come from other
Ed,
towns.
I'm asking you to stop, please. All right, stop.
Well,
That's it. I want to end this. As much as your clients do, as much as everybody else does.
Mark.
I've asked you to stop.
okay, with all due
I'm
respect,
not going to ask you to stop
what's your
again,
legal
Ed,
basis for asking me to stop speaking at a public hearing?
Because this is not a public hearing.
Oh, it absolutely
It's
is.
not a public hearing.
Are you sure?
Was this noted as a public hearing?
Absolutely, I was told to be here. What are we doing? You've got the public here. Then can you identify for the record, then, a point of order? What hearing is this? What are we here for tonight? What's the
Board
point?
of
What's
Selectmen
the...
hearing. I didn't know it was...
It's not a
Does
hearing.
it say public hearing on this agenda here? It's not a...
My understanding was that we wanted to discuss with you and your clients the possibility of entering into a temporary arrangement to continue the trial in hopes of finding another place for the dog park. That was the original intent. I didn't expect Attorney Gellerman to be advising the Conservation Commission and for them to take a vote and to come up with this interim solution. But they did. We're here. I know it puts you in a difficult place for trial prep, but I agree that that's why we asked you to come. And I think Mark has agreed that you have the floor, right?
And I just took it away.
Well, that's a first.
Okay.
My clients are from Foxboro. I
All
represent
right,
them.
Ed. All right.
That doesn't...
All right.
All
I'm
right,
not
Mark.
going to get into this long argument.
Thank you. No, thank you for your time, your consideration. I think what has been presented, again, we are encouraged. We're encouraged by Conservation making that vote last night. I think the only piece that's missing is a 60-day continuance. The parties can step back, they can do their work, and we revisit this. If we have to try the case in September, October, we do that.
And I've
so
always
I would
agreed
ask
with
them
that.
if they want to respond to that. If there's something I'm missing as to why they think they need to have their trial in August, it would save my clients some time and money. And again, 80% of the
Hey,
people...
hold
from
on,
out of
Mr.
town.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there's a number of people in the audience that are out of order. And, no, Mr. Chairman, listen, guys, if you want to speak, please come down.
Don't start. I'll have you removed because you start this every time.
Listen to me,
Don't
guys.
start.
Guys,
I'm telling
hold
you
on,
right now.
hold on. Mark, listen. Guys, everybody here has the ability to speak on any of these matters that we're discussing tonight. Mark is the chairman of this board, subject to the ruling of the chair, Mr. Valenzola. I think you should try and stay on point for the matters that we're discussing. I think he was right in the fact that if you get into the logbooks and things like that, that's not germane to the discussion tonight. So he has every right, subject to the call of the chair, to ask you to please limit your remarks to that. As far as people yelling out from the floor, it's absolutely unacceptable for any governmental body to allow that to happen. I encourage you to come to the front row, sit down in the chair, and be respectful of anybody. Up here on this table and sitting down in the front row. There's a number of people that follow the process and have been sitting there, and they're going to be recognized to speak. So please, if you have anything to say, come and sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Valerie, I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes, okay?
Okay, I'll be very quick. Thank you, Board of Selectmen, for allowing me to speak down in Foxboro. Valerie Bataille with the Conservation Commission. I have a question for Attorney Geller. Last night, the motion that we made had a lot of elements to it. I know you can't go into detail, but there were some general aspects of that motion that I thought you could go over that I didn't hear explained. So I just have a question as to why all the elements weren't discussed in a general nature. As for Paul, your statement that the Town Manager Act takes precedent over the control of conservation land, I've heard now that there have been at least 3 legal opinions that disagree with that. So I question why that is still an issue. I just don't get it. As far as looking for an alternative site, it's my understanding that that has been proposed by the Conservation Commission since I think for almost 2 years. So I don't understand, I think that's why 2 weeks, you look at a map, it shouldn't be difficult. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Valerie. Sir, name for the record, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Valerie. I did speak today with counsel, and that Lenny to my left and Ed to the right. And during that conversation with counsel, I did explain all of the terms of the commission's vote last night. I think because it's pending litigation, it's best not to, at this point, disclose the precise terms of the vote that you took last night, although they have been explained to counsel. It doesn't, in my judgment, it doesn't move the process forward to recite all of the all of the conditions with precision. It just doesn't move the process forward. Also, let me say, to assuage the concerns that I'm sure you're feeling, it's best not to raise this issue tonight. I agree with Jim entirely that the question of who has authority to tell who to do what, let's just not get there tonight. We're better off not doing it. There's plenty of time for that to occur. Clearly there's a learned disagreement between members of the board and opinions we've provided. It happens. Everybody's entitled to that. It's just better not to do that. Let's see where this process takes us.
Thank you, Attorney Gelman. That's why I was surprised by Paul's statement tonight, because I didn't think we were going to go there, and since he did raise it, I felt I was obligated to respond, because from what I've heard, his statement is incorrect, and I wanted to correct him on that. I would like to say, as far as the noise issue, it's my understanding that when there is noise, the dogs are asked to be removed. There is a regulation now in place that if the dogs are loud, they are removed.
Valerie, please.
Yep. Thank you.
Mark, can I just make a comment?
I wish you wouldn't. I really wish you would respond to that, because then we're going to get into a show back and forth.
He's a member of the board, though, Mark.
All right, go ahead, Paul. If you insist. You know what?
How do the people, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, how do the people stand here and listen? Can you hear the people now, please, sir?
Well, she has to, you know what? Just about had enough of this, all right? The board, everybody. I'm going to recognize this man right here. Go ahead.
My name is James Slaughter. I live on 2 Joseph Road in Foxboro. This comment does not have a bearing on the dog park. I like the motion you guys passed. And I got to tell you, my daughter is Debbie. What I don't like is the fact, as I've watched all of these hearings in the town of Foxboro the last couple of years, the amount of input that is given to the citizens has gone down the tube. And under the parliamentary procedures that you folks operate under, that in itself is justification for taking the selectmen into court on a particular issue. And I would suggest that you talk to the town council, Attorney Gelman, about that, because he's very familiar with it, and make sure that you follow the procedure. I'm ready to get out of here. As far as I'm concerned, the hearing's closed. But there's an awful lot of people out there that wanted to say something.
Thank you. Debbie.
Debbie Giardino, 151 Main Street. I won't editorialize, though I thought of doing that, Mr. Gelman, after you had. Kudos to the Commission, Conservation Commission. I'm very proud of you for making that concession. Andy and Mark, good luck. 2 weeks to find a spot. That's going to be quite a task. If you need my help, I'm there to give it to you. My question is this, is that the girls, the proponents have prided themselves on this park costing the town nothing. And had it stayed in its current location, would continue to cost them nothing, because that's something they pride themselves on. Mr. Thrasher listed all of the new conditions that may exist in the new location, but nobody has addressed where the cost will come from for the relocation, the signage, the fencing,
The rec
parking.
department.
Right, that's great. We'll just take away the other half of by department. I don't know if that question is premature, but it certainly, in these fiscal times, bears some thought. If it's premature, tell me, we'll deal with it another day.
I do believe it's premature, Debbie. I know both Selectman Thrasher and Mortensen have both said if it took fundraisers and everything to get involved, they would get involved.
No, Mark, don't speak for me, please.
I thought that's what you
Don't
guys
speak
said.
for me, please. Mark.
Whatever. You know what? I'm going to make a motion right now to reorganize the Board of Selectmen, make Paul Feeney chairman, Linda Walsh vice chair, and Paul Mortensen clerk. You might as well make it a second, guys.
Mark, please. Please.
There's no
withdraw
second.
that,
There's still
please.
people down here.
You know what? I
Please
want a
withdraw
second,
that.
because I'm just going to
Please
reorganize.
withdraw. It hasn't been seconded, and it won't be seconded. Please withdraw your motion. Please withdraw your motion.
Look, we're at a public meeting, it's a selectmen's meeting, there's still people down there that want to speak, and then we go on with our business.
Yep.
I think these people might have been here first,
Yep.
did you?
Bob. Bob Bodie.
Good for you.
Give your name and
Hi.
address, please.
Andrea Parsons, 16 Bradford Ave. I wasn't, pro or con for the dog park, actually, but what I wanted to say was that everything in the paper made me want to come here because my husband and I were, he was definitely for it, and all of a sudden he was like, you know what, I'm so sick about hearing about it. You know what, because he felt like the people that were going against it, he said, you know what, I'm sick about all the politics about all of it, because he felt that they were bullies, the people that didn't want the dog park here. He bullied the town into saying, we don't want it here. And that's just what he felt like. And I said, you know what, then I'm going to this meeting tonight. Because you know what, he bullied the Conservation Commission into saying, okay, you know what, I'm giving up. And you know what, I'm glad, not the Conservation Commission. They were the only ones that said, they were the only ones saying, no, we're not going to say no. And then the selectmen, they didn't back them up, they didn't do this. And then tonight, you know what, the Conservation Commission, I'm glad that, you decided, you said, you know what, I want the town to be at peace. So they're the ones that said, okay, we're going to let the town be at peace tonight, because they have the town's heart at the best. Because that's what you want for this town, to say, you know what, we'll give the bullies their due. And you know what, to the lawyer there, we don't care about your clients having to pay. Because you know what, we don't care about, oh, it's their money. You know what, we don't care if they have to pay. They're going to pay either way. They're going to pay you, they're going to pay Gellerman, they're going to have to pay through their nose. So, yes, they have to pay. They have to pay Gellerman, we have to pay Gellerman. They have to pay him, great, we don't really care. When they chose to sue the town, well, you know what, they have to. And you know what, there's only one real abutter. There's only one house that abuts that dog park. The rest of those abutters do not abut the dog park. You know what? You have to drive to that dog park. And there's only one little house. And guess what? When Cohasset River Park was there was a heck of a lot more noise. So for all of you, this town needs healing. And that dog park was a place to heal. A lot of people that went there that didn't have a dog, they brought their boyfriend, they brought their friend, and they had fun, and they talked. That's what it was about. And yeah, the kid that was there that got bit by a dog, he was there with his girlfriend, and he didn't even care. He didn't even think about suing until what? All of the sue, and people got all happy. So that's what I came here to talk about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker.
Don Baker, 16 Milton Lane.
Excuse me, John. I intend to have Don be the last speaker. Is that okay? Thank you. Did you not speak? We don't have any signs on here. The lights are in our eyes. It doesn't say speaker You know, usually you tell me it's a speaker and you sit in the right seats. We don't have that. So you sit to the left, I'm used to people sitting here.
She has
So-
to go last also.
Right. Okay. 2 more speakers. Donald.
Thank you. I certainly want to thank the Conservation Commission for moving forward on this issue. As a butter to that dog park, I appreciate that. The information just presented to you, I'm sure you probably know is false. My property abuts the dog park directly, as do the Conlins, as do Renee, as do several other pieces of property on that land. So it is not just one person who is aggrieved by this situation. All we ask really is common sense. The town of Foxboro, in its wisdom, allows for 2 zones and only 2 zones for a dog kennel to be in operation. And the dog park, by definition, is in fact a kennel. Read it in the Mass.
Donald, let's not get into legalities and
No, I'm
trying to
just
decipher
pointing
law.
out
Well,
that it is a dog.
you know, that's an opinion. Let's not get into
No,
that.
it's not really an
about-
opinion, it's a fact.
Well, I don't call a dog park a kennel myself, so that's my opinion that you're wrong.
Well,
so let's
then-
not get into that. If you have a
Okay.
statement, let's make a nice statement and move on.
Okay, the statement is that it is a kennel, and it's proven in Mass General Law. The property that is being used as a dog park, I have no objection to a dog park. It just is very poorly sited. It should never be located in the midst of a residential neighborhood. It's an annoyance to all the neighbors, not just the direct abutters, but the abutters of the abutters. We have not been unreasonable. We wouldn't be in this legal position if anybody would have listened to us in the first place, but nobody chose to. We tried for 2 years before we filed suit. So I'm just a little tired of being accused of being a dog hater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I am glad to see some movement being made, and let's hope it continues forward, because we'd like to have this settled in a peaceable solution. We're not looking to sue that town that I lived in for over 50 years. That's not my position. My position is that this dog park is just purely located in a very, very awkward position, let's put it that way. I guess that's the kindest thing I can say. Mostly the users of that dog park come from out of town. 75% of them come from out of town. 35 to 40 people in this town use that dog park, and we have the record to prove that. So I just want you to be aware of that fact. And I thank you for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
1 minute, sir. Go ahead. Name for the record.
I will be very quick, sir. Thank you. Thomas Sarin, 84 Central Street. You folks have really gone through some serious hoops about something that I believe that the town has no business being involved in, making a recreational park for dogs. You know, it's a great idea that some couple young ladies came up with a few years ago. Now you guys got it dumped in your lap. I call them my grandchildren, 2 dogs that come and visit. I can find places to go run the dogs, take them for a walk, visit with other dogs. It does not have to be an organized function of the town of Foxboro. You guys are putting yourself, and ladies, are putting yourself through an awful lot of hoops that I don't think needs to happen at all. It was a great idea, doesn't seem to work out. Close it up, and let's just babysit your own babies someplace else. Thank you.
Tom, were you happy with your driveway?
It's not that bad.
I came by twice to see you weren't home.
Mark, fair to say we're going to visit this issue in 2 weeks and ask Andy and Mark to tell us what they've come up with?
Yeah, but we had the last speaker, she's been waiting, James.
Just asking.
Yep.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be so confusing up here, but everybody was barking in my ear in 5 different directions, including the crowd. Bob, come on now. How much do you have to speak tonight?
Very little, Mark. Unfortunately, I was out of town last night, so I do want to compliment my board for doing an extremely hard decision to come up with what they did. I've read the entire minutes. I think they did a fantastic job. Let's try it for the 2 weeks and see what happens. I do not personally from a personal point of view, I don't care if there's a dog park there or not. But from the chairman of the Conservation Commission, I feel that it's appropriate use for the land, and the dog park is a legal entity as far as the lawyers have said, and I think unless we come up with some other place for it, I think it should stay there.
And for the most patient lady in Foxboro.
The last time I spoke was
Name for the record, please.
I'm sorry?
Name for the record, please.
Oh, my name is Rosemary Smith, and I live at 85 Caucasus Street. And the last time I spoke, I only said 3 words, and it was about Michael Jackson. And I said, let him come. So now it's going to be a little bit longer.
Oh, boy.
I feel that this issue is not a Foxboro issue. I do not feel that it is a Massachusetts issue. I feel that this is part of the Declaration of Independence signed July 4th, 1776, which certain inalienable rights for the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must look at the big picture. We have escalating costs and maintenance, basic education, town services, and protecting our water supply. I oversee the men's basketball program. All have to sign a liability waiver. All pay a fee. Having worked for the Department of Public Safety, my first responsibility is to protect the town of Foxboro and its citizenry. This limits the lawsuits against the town of Foxboro. If Foxboro is going to welcome in new residents and sell homes, we have got to respect the basic rights in all regards, and it must be upheld. We all love our dogs most of the time. Ecologically, reintroducing landfills to recreation has been successful in many communities, and I'm sure it could well include a dog park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it? Anybody on the board got new business to bring up? Anybody with old business? Make a motion and we adjourn.
Chairman, I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second. Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Come on.
Can I get a copy of your statement, please?
I stopped.
Okay.
Yeah.